Do your politics matter while converting to Judaism? No. Yes, of course they do. Should you be more open about your politics while converting? No one can answer that but you. But if your politics happen to align with your community, you might actually be rewarded for being open about them. You might fit in faster and have an easier time getting along socially. And that's a fundamental part of the conversion process, fitting in. First, a disclaimer. I've been a part of and visited more Jewish communities than a lot of people, especially those in the conversion process. And I've spent 2 decades talking to other converts, conversion candidates, and Bali Tshuva from all around the world, including a lot of people who never finished the process or who left. As always, I'm usually speaking to conversion candidates, but this information is just as useful to BTs, Bali Tshuva, born Jews who are becoming more Jewishly involved. But my experience is still limited, and my perspective and biases are only my own. As always, your mileage can and will vary. Take everything with a grain of salt. This is going to be further complicated by the fact that there's an entire Jewish denomination called conservative. Also, I'm an American, so I'm dealing with an American political climate, and that will be kind of the basis that I'm coming from. I will differentiate the Jewish denomination of conservative by using the phrase, by using the term politically conservative when I'm talking about politics. So now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. What if your politics don't match your community? Either on one issue that's really popular at the moment or just generally. You could be penalized for sharing those opinions and ideas. You could even jeopardize your conversion process. Because, spoiler alert, conversions are overseen by human beings and they are fallible. Very fallible. We'll talk in another video about the many red flags you might encounter dealing with these human beings who have what feels like absolute control over your life, and in a lot of ways do. This is even worse if you get on the bad side of someone who has control or power over your conversion process, officially or not. Who could that be? The local rabbi overseeing your process, maybe? The members of your Beit Din, the court that will be guiding your conversion process? But also, big donors or machers in the community can influence these people who hold the real power. Machers are the movers and the shakers. Big donors are also often machers, but not all machers have the power of the purse in addition to their social skills. Money talks in any religious organization, for better or worse. The bills have got to be paid, the lights have got to stay on. So, let's get back to it. This is a little bit of a side discussion. But I really hate the phrase, you can't judge Judaism by the Jews. Judaism is a collective religion. It is not a solitary religion. You cannot do Judaism by yourself. You just can't. I have had plenty of people try to fight with me about that on the internet, but it's true. You cannot get divorced unless you have a rabbi and a Beit Din to oversee that process. You cannot convert without a Beit Din. There are multiple things that you cannot do unless you have a religious community. You cannot daven, pray in a minyan of 10 Jews, however your denomination defines who is a Jew. This idea that we can't judge Judaism by the people who make it up is wrong. I think it's pretending that it's an apples and oranges problem, but it's not, because Judaism is the Jews. And there is a point to it of you can look at the religion separately, But if you're talking about real people's lives, people who are really being hurt by the community or by individuals in the community, it is dismissive and harmful and gives a pass to people with really bad behavior to just be like, well, you can't judge Judaism by the Jews. Yes, you absolutely can, and you probably should. We should do that more as a group because we should be shunning people more. We should be punishing people more because there's a lot of bad behavior that makes Jews and Judaism look terrible. And instead of talking about that and taking action on that and protecting people, we just say, well, can't judge Judaism by the Jews. So that comes in to this idea about politics, especially in the earlier stages of conversion or becoming a Baal Tshuva when you're still really idealistic and purist. And I'm not going to lie, I'm still an idealist and I'm still a purist. That is my personality. The idea that personal politics would influence your acceptance into the Jewish community and your literal ability to join a religion is probably offensive because it is. That's not a requirement under Jewish law, you might shout into the ether. Lots of conversion has nothing to do with Jewish law. Like I said, Judaism is made up of humans, and people are complicated, and people are weird, and sometimes people are jerks. Also, sometimes people are saints. Don't like it's easy to spot those people and to hang our hat on them as the best of the religion, but don't let that be the only thing you let yourself accept as real. That other people are somehow fake or not really reflective of X, Y, or Z. So, conversion boils down to a few fundamental things: learning it, living it, and fitting in. You have to learn about Judaism. You have to actually live it in your real daily life, and you have to fit into a community that accepts you. I used to call the fitting in part being it, but now I think that makes it too easy to place the blame on a conversion candidate when it doesn't work out. This is a two-way street. Both sides need to be working together in order to integrate a new person into a community. That's no different from a conversion candidate or Baalei Tshuva as someone who just moves into the neighborhood. If you make people feel welcome, they're more likely to fit in. If you treat them as an inconvenience, they're not going to fit in very well. This is absolutely a two-way street, and this idea that fitting in a community is the sole responsibility of the conversion candidate is an idea that needs to be thrown into the dustbin of history. So, what does that look like from your point of view? Do you feel at home in the Jewish people? Do you feel at home in your community, the place you live right now on a day-to-day basis, not where you hope to move, not where one day? Do you enjoy spending time with other Jews? The ones you have right now, not an idealistic version of the future. Do you actually spend time with other Jews and in the Jewish community where you live? Do you fit in? Fitting in is so amorphous and too much like the middle school lunchroom sometimes. And it's not entirely in your control. Politics is one part of it, but there are many other parts which we can discuss in other videos. But today, we're going to talk about politics. Especially today, political polarization is hitting the Jewish community just as much as any other community, especially in the American community, American or English-speaking communities that I'm aware of. Jews are famously political and always have been. Fundamentally, Judaism is a very political religion in its tenets, and usually that's a point of pride to Jews. We're good at speaking truth to power, whether that's Paro or the Tsar in Russia or Achashverosh in Persia, since Purim is coming up soon. Jews often talk about how we have spoken truth to power in the past. Some of the most common examples that will be brought up in conversations you might have: bringing monotheism to a polytheistic world, standing up to human sacrifice, especially child human sacrifice in the cultures around them, and giving women rights in divorce thousands of years ago, and also rights in marriage with the ketubah. Those are probably the most common political topics you will hear of Jews pushing back against the social reality at the time. American politics and politics in most countries have become increasingly polarized and combative across the spectrum. And more fundamentally, politics now are very personal for many Jews. During the years I was converting, which was the early 2000s and into the teens, the conservative and Orthodox congregations that I was involved with, contemporary politics was handled in a pretty WASPy way. If you're not familiar with the term WASP, it's white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, but kind of like a stand-in for white American culture. And in this way, politics in these communities was handled in what, in my opinion and my experience, is a very WASPy way, not the sort of thing you discuss in polite company. Except for Israel, in most communities. They will discuss Israeli politics quite widely and freely, usually. But American politics, usually people try to ban it from the bima in the shul. The bima is the place where people stand at the front of the shul. They'll try to get around it in Shabbat table discussions often. It's not the sort of thing someone's going to bring up on like a dating profile usually, or as part of the matchmaking efforts. It's just sort of the thing that, politics and money are things that we don't just discuss willy-nilly. So, this means that your experience depends on what your politics are and what the politics of your community are. Because in a lot of communities, that waspiness is falling to the side as people become more politically involved and politically passionate and politically polarized. Some communities have become very much more political. The Reform community has historically been very political, getting very involved in social justice issues. So if you're a conservative person, a politically conservative person in a Reform community, you may feel very uncomfortable. You may feel unwelcome. You may feel silenced. You may feel ostracized. And it could affect your conversion. If you are in the Orthodox community, tends to be more politically conservative. If you are more politically liberal in the Orthodox community, you could have the exact same problems. You could have troubles fitting in. You could have questioning whether this is the right place for you. And these are all things that don't have anything to do with the religion, so to speak. There's this idea that the personal is political. And I think Judaism believes that, in my opinion. Like looking at ketubas and divorce rights for women in Jewish law, dealing with human sacrifice. Those, I believe, are political issues that are social issues that our religion cares deeply about. And we believe deeply in tikkun olam, in repairing the world. And so I feel that Judaism is a very political religion. Other people don't. But I think most of us do believe it's a political religion. I think we just tend to believe that it reflects the politics that we personally hold, which is human. Again, we're dealing with humans in the conversion process, for better or for worse. So, What if you're in the denomination conservative movement in Judaism? That's a hard one. I find that in my limited experience, there's more diversity between congregations, that each congregation will usually have an MO, but you're going to have to feel it out to find out what that is. You may find differing opinions, like you might find that they are politically liberal in a conservative community in American politics, but politically conservative in Israeli politics and Middle Eastern politics. It's not a one-to-one thing. You can have domestic liberalism or domestic conservatism with Middle Eastern liberalism or Middle Eastern conservatism, and that's true in any denomination of Judaism. But as I said, in my experience with conservative congregations, meaning the denomination conservative movement, I have found it to be the most WASPy of all. Conservative communities, I think, have been more mixed in political views than the Reform or the Orthodox ends of the spectrum. And so I think that kind of a waspiness attempt at peacemaking has been a tactical consideration that has helped them maintain peace in their congregations and communities. That's just my read. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe your congregation is totally different. The conservative congregations I have known tended to be just centrist as a whole, but leaning liberal, leaning democratic in the American context. Um, that could have changed a lot since 2015, 2016, because my time in the conservative movement was before the this new era of politics that we live in now. So now, let's talk about the Orthodox. These communities are by definition socially conservative. After all, we're talking about a community where most women wear skirts full time outside the home, and only men can be rabbis. Rigid, traditional gender roles are pervasive in daily life. Um, that is the most common politics you see on a day-to-day basis is um, gender roles. So most of the political debates that I would see in the Jewish community, in the Orthodox community, have traditionally been debating the role and utility, if any, of feminism. Less frequently was dealing with casual racism or dehumanizing comments about immigrants. Ironic for Jews, right? Interestingly, I remember when Pew, the survey company, came out with its findings that Orthodox Jews had more in common with white evangelical Christians than they did with other Jewish groups. Having been born and raised in the Bible Belt, I believe that's incredibly accurate. However, as much more present as politics is in the Orthodox community these days, it's still less than evangelical churches, for instance. And COVID precautions have been much less politicized than in much of American society as a general rule. There are definitely some places where it has become extremely polarized, especially in certain Haredi communities, ultra Orthodox communities. But in the average Orthodox congregation, you're going to find a ton of doctors and a ton of nurses and other people who work in the medical field in science. Um, it's not going to be it's not going to be the hill that most people are going to die on in a shul. Who knows what will happen as we move forward. But overall, in the Orthodox community, even since 2015, 2016, I do still think that there is some remnant of that respectability aura around politics. That's not what we discuss in polite company sort of attitude. It ebbs and flows depending on the news cycle, but this seems to be the general rule inside the synagogue walls, at least. least. But what about kiddish or on social media? It can be no holds barred there, like just the rest of American society. If you have a Facebook group for your local Jewish community, it's probably going to look very similar to your just neighborhood Facebook group. You're going to have plenty of people making political comments that you may or may not agree with, and you're going to have to decide how or whether you want to engage with those things. So, if you're politically conservative in a more liberal community, or liberal in a more Orthodox community, or just very outspoken about politics in general, you might run into problems. Do you hate politics and find talking about them déclassé? You'll fit in just fine. Cynical, but true. People will probably find you refreshing. But if you've watched this video this far, I doubt that's you. There will always be one or three or whatever very politically outspoken people who assume that everyone in the community does and should agree with their politics, and they can and probably will put you in awkward positions. You could very well be subjected to political purity tests disguised as small talk. And if they don't like what you have to say, you might have created an enemy who can sabotage your conversion. Fun, right? I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Do I think you should hide your politics? No, and I didn't. But you need to know yourself. How much conflict are you willing to put up with? How much risk are you comfortable with? Maybe some issues are more worth it than others. But you also need to know your community. How do politics show up there, if at all? Is there a potential for conflict with your own politics? Are there particularly outspoken people you should be cautious around or even avoid? Any machers you should be careful not to offend? Anyone you want to avoid? It's okay to avoid people. I guarantee you, everyone in that synagogue is avoiding at least several people. It's human, it's normal, it's fine. You don't have to be friends with every person in the community in order to fit in. But if you want to avoid someone who happens to be a macher or someone who has the power of the purse and is a big donor, how can you do that without causing offense? These are the annoying calculations of conversion, the realpolitik of a religious rite that is inherently political because humans are involved and in power over you. They literally get to decide where you live, who you marry. So, yeah, that's a lot of power over you. I could speak from experience, they can cost you many thousands of dollars. It for being bullies, not for because like charging for things that are normal to charge for. They can ruin your life. It is entirely possible. I've had my life ruined by the conversion process. I have lost lots of money. I arguably lost a large part of my career due to it. So, this is real power over you, and you need to be clear and thoughtful about what levels of risk are acceptable to you. And my stuff wasn't over politics, it was just bullies who love to have power over women. But that's my opinion. The power dynamics are super real, and too many people undersell them and pretend that they aren't as real as they are. Anyone who's watching this, I bet you know how real it is. But just know that the rest of us know, even if everyone around you tells you you're imagining things or it's not that bad or they can't really do that. You know. You need to be cognizant of that power dynamic, no matter how you choose to navigate it. Make your decisions based on a full understanding of the situation rather than flying blind or just making it up as you go along, because I can speak from experience that making it up as you go along is probably not the best way. Spend some time thinking about it. Make decisions. Don't just use inertia to go along to get along. So that's it. That's what I have to say about politics in conversion and how politics can affect your conversion. If you like this video, it helps if you click the like. You can subscribe down below, of course. If you want to be notified of all of my new videos, just click the little bell in the subscribe button. And if you want more, check out over here for another video from my channel. Good luck. You're gonna need it. It's a messy process. Have a good day. Bye.